Hello, everyone, and welcome to Next Fest, RMIT's Open Day. And welcome to one of our first live industry Q&A panels today. We have a number of fantastic information sessions and similar panels to this, and I hope you get to join a few more of them. My name is Chaminda Ranasinghe. I'm the Chief Experience Officer at RMIT University. I'm really excited to be hosting this panel today about careers of the future. With some of our great industry partners, our leading industry experts from a wide range of industries. At RMIT, we pride ourselves in partnering with industry so that we prepare our students for life and work. And one of the ways that we do this is through projects offering work integrated learning and other activities with industry. And the important thing is these experiences, real hands-on experiences with industry, gives our students the best chance of success as they go out into the world of work. And of course, this is invaluable given that the world that we're facing into is changing so rapidly. And it's important that our students learn from professionals and our academics. The theory and the experiences go hand in hand in making sure, as I said, they become successful in their world of work. Now, before we begin, I want to acknowledge the people of the Withrmit and Bunurong language groups of the Eastern Kulin Nations, whose unceded lands we conduct the business of our university. RMIT respectfully acknowledges their elders past, present, and emerging. And while we conduct our work remotely, I want to pay my respect to the wider unceded lands of the nation. A little bit of housekeeping before we begin. As you can imagine, we are running these events in a virtual context, and as such, we want you to engage with us. So if there's any questions that you might want me to ask the panelists, please go ahead and do that. There's a Q&A section on the right-hand side of your screen, and you can do that. And the Q&A tool will allow us to capture those questions, and we'll do our absolute best to try and get to all of them. Now, this webinar is also being recorded so that we can share it with our community all around the world. And of course, it'll be available on our Open Day platform for a while to come. So let's start with an introduction of the fantastic panel members that I have. So today, the special guests, I'll start with Michael Stoddart. Michael is the Director of Strategic Business Development at Adobe. And I've known Michael for a long time. So Michael, welcome. Also joining us today is Matthew Greensmith. Matthew is the Head of Industry Domains and Early Careers at Amazon Web Services. Welcome, Matthew. And I'll go on to also then say a real welcome and hello to the General Manager of Communications at BMW Group Australia, Leanne Blackenberg. Hello, Leanne. Good to have you on board. And finally, and of course not least, Yusuf Salim. Yusuf is the National Beckhoff Automation. Hello, Yusuf.
Thanks for having us here.
And so welcome, everyone. So it's great to have everyone on board. And once again, thank you so much for giving up your time. As I mentioned, RMIT University prides itself in partnering with the industry to make sure that we take your experiences and pass it on to our students and embed our students in your organization so that they get the best outcomes as possible. So in that context, let's start with some questions. So the first question I have today is about your role and the company you work for. So let's start with what made you kickstart your career in the industry that you're in, and just want to hear about your experience in that context. I'll start with you, Michael.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Chaminda. Look, I left high school desperate to study law, and so took up English and psychology while I was accepted. And on the way through, I discovered design. And this was at a point where we were going through the first digital transformation, as it's called now. In those days, it was called the digital publishing revolution, where it was computerized. And so I was extremely lucky to work with large media and advertising companies as they literally went from an analog to a digital process. And I formed a small consultancy, then moved into IT and management of it, and then joined Adobe. And because Adobe is obviously a founding partner of that first digital transformation in the advertising, design and publishing space, And now we're in the progressing all the way out through the digital experience space, and we're still very much driving it. And it's literally the fascination and enjoyment of combining technology with designed experiences, and it's fresh and it's new every day, and it's a great field to be in. And it's continuing to evolve, and it's RMIT and your graduates and your faculty that are driving and feeding this digital transformation as it's happening. That's why I'm here.
Thanks, Michael. Leanne, I'll come to you next. Sorry, Leanne, I think you're on mute.
Hi, everyone. My favorite subject at school was English, and I enjoyed reading, so I knew that I wanted to get into something that would involve writing. I also had an interest to promote brands, so I decided to study mass communication, which would give me the opportunity to then work either in public relations or marketing. My first job involved working in a marketing department, where I then realized that my talent was geared more towards PR. So with PR being a discipline of marketing that usually sits within the marketing department, you get to work very closely with the marketing colleagues on all promotional campaigns. The only difference between marketing and PR is the tools that you use to promote your brand or your product. So for advertising, whereas you use radio, TV, out-of-home, online events, with PR, there is an event component, but you also get to tell stories and deliver messages to promote the company. So while they both try and achieve the same thing to influence purchasing decisions, it's just different tools that are used. And now my role, I'm closely working together with the marketing colleagues to try and promote our brands. And we get to collaborate on every campaign. So it gives me the best of both.
Thanks, Leanne. That's brilliant. Matthew, I'll come to you next.
Hey, thanks. So I sort of fell into my career in IT. I'd been done a lot with technology and computers and programming in high school, but had decided I didn't like programming, so I didn't try and go for a career in IT. And then I spent a few years trying to. Well, I started off at RMIT Student Radio, strangely enough, and I tried to build a career in the music industry, which was not exactly the easiest thing to build a career in. But while I was there, I got to help build a couple of recording studios and do some work like that, and that got me interested in the electronics side. And so I went and started doing some work in electronics, and that got me into IT. I just did a few career placements. Career placements can be absolutely essential in helping you work out what you want to do with your life. And a couple of career placements helped me work out, oh, actually, this is pretty cool. I enjoy this. And I ended up in technology. I like a lot of people. I think a lot of people in their high school days think of IT as that programming thing, but it's such a wide field. There's so many different careers in support, in consulting, in advice, in systems, and all sorts of things. And so I started off really low down on the rung as a bench tech fixing laptops, and then over time worked my way up through systems engineering and design into management. Went back to uni and did an MBA, and then ended up as a manager in IT. And eventually joined. Had a colleague, an ex-colleague that was working at Amazon, and said, "Hey, this cloud thing is something you should look into." And so took a role as a senior manager in Amazon Web Services, which has been one of the places I've ever worked, and a really good start. I think most people understand that cloud delivery is probably going to take over not all of the IT world, but a large chunk of the IT world. So it's really exciting to be in an organisation that's sort of at the forefront of that.
Brilliant, Matthew. So from recording studios to cloud computing, I love that story. Yusuf, what about yourself?
Right. So I'm working as a national sales manager at Beckhoff Automation, responsible for managing sales operations in Australia. So while I was studying at high school or early teenage days, I was passionate about physics and how you have these mathematical algorithms that revolve around different physical sciences, also related to our daily lives. And I was also curious to explore the near and far mysteries of the universe, technology advancements, which would not have been possible without implementing the law of physics. The relationship, for example, between different forces and how they interact to produce motion, and how when we were kids, we used to have those little paper airplanes, how they fly using the forces of lift and thrust. For example, how electricity is produced, right? How it gets to our houses through power grids. So it was all irresistible attraction of creativity, innovation, invention that led me to pursue my career in engineering field. And here I am working for a very innovative company that has revolutionized the automation industry by introducing PC-based control technology, which is very different to that of traditional automation system manufacturers from the past. So that's the story, how I got kickstarted my career.
Thank you, Yusuf. I love asking this question because it's such you get the most varied answers, from having a passion for English, music studios, paper airplanes, and design, and then to where you've ended up. So it's such a fantastic way for our students to appreciate that there's no single path, there's no linear path when it comes to your career. So brilliant! What a great start. So for the next question, it's really about understanding, the industry that you're in. So I'm keen to understand what excites you about your industry that you're currently in, but also where you see your industry going. What does the future of your industry look like, particularly given the current circumstances? Why don't I start with you, Leanne? Sorry, Leanne, on mute.
I think what excites me most about the future of the automotive industry is that it's currently going through its biggest transformation in the past 100 years. We've seen automotive brands really embrace sustainability throughout their business ecosystems to reduce CO2 emissions and to show a true commitment to climate protection. For us at the BMW Group, we have committed to offer 25 fully electric models in our fleet by 2023. We've committed to our Mini brand offering purely fully electric cars by 2030. And what makes this really exciting is the transition from combustion engine to electric cars, as well as the transformation of mobility. We're going to see private mobility, public mobility, infrastructure, and connectivity that are all going to really experience and transform over the next few years and well beyond.
How exciting! That's such an insightful view of the automotive industry, and thank you. Yusuf, what about yours?
Right. Coming from the industrial background again, I would say Industry 4.0, right? Or it is also known as the fourth industrial revolution, which very much have transformed the way robotics and automation technologies work together. So basically how it works, they provide us with rich real-time data, capitulating engineering and operational insights that further strengthens the value of an inclusive work environment for humans, robotics, and machines alike, right? Now, this may make you curious as to what's the difference between today's automation industry versus how we operated in the past, right? Now, the critical differences are the connected technologies, how the technologies are connected, and the capabilities they bring forward, right? Now, we all know that central processing units, or CPUs, aka computers, are getting smaller and smaller and smaller, yet more powerful. By the way, but the way we can now monitor machines in a manufacturing environment, transferring vast amounts of data whenever we want and to whoever we want, along with the information derived from this data, that's what's innovative. That's what excites me about this industry, right? So, for example, think of smart cars, and again, Len will back me up on this. Think of smart cars and how technologically advanced some of these autonomous vehicles are, providing features like autopilot features, full self-driving capabilities, suggesting when to make lane changes to optimize your route and make adjustments so you don't get stuck behind the slow-moving cars or trucks, right? Another example that comes to mind is of smartwatches, and I'm sure many of us have got one which we wear on our wrists. So what is a smartwatch? It's a wearable technology device that resembles a wristwatch or other timekeeping device. in this day and age, we can use this interface to initiate and answer phone calls from the touch of our hand, read emails, text messages, get a weather report, listen to music, dictate email, text messages, check the heartbeat rate, ask a digital assistant a question. All of this is now possible through the concept of digitalization, which is a core element of this Industry 4.0 revolution. Now, this is what exactly excites me about this industry. And as the old saying goes, don't work hard, work smart. And hence the smarter way of living in the future.
Thanks, Yusuf. Absolutely work smarter. Absolutely agree with you. Now, Michael, I have followed Adobe's journey for many years, as you know, but from connecting data and digital in the context of the creative side, documents, the history is just amazing, and Adobe is synonymous with digital and the web. So, to you, what's the future of the not just Adobe, but the sector that you're in, the industry that you're in?
Yes, I'm interested in what Matthew said earlier about AWS, everything moving to the cloud, and that is totally true. And what Yusuf just mentioned about data, I'm going to be perhaps a little bit cantankerous and go, that's great, that's the infrastructure. And in the same way, there are still wonderful careers in electrical engineering and in the railways, and without in any way diminishing both cloud storage and data, it's what you do with it. It's how you enable people to experience that. And I would put it to you that, as you say, Chaminda, we're in the experience business, and a lot of people would think that is superficial. And I would strongly caution anybody from thinking that the experience of a brand of BMW or AWS is in any way superficial. These days, everybody want less things and better experience, and technology is driving that, and how well you allow people to experience that. And I'm not talking commercial, although at the moment there's a lot of the driver behind it is commercial. You want people to have a great experience of your brand, so they spend money with you. But as you can see at RMIT really believes in experiential learning. And experiential learning is great, and people often think, oh well, what's the most IT tech-driven experiential learning? And they think of airline flight simulators. Okay, well that's great, but that's also that model is really useful for things such as firefighting on the one hand, or surgery on the other. This experiential learning is such a core part of building on top of data and cloud access, and as you can see, that idea of being able to bring all that together is applicable to every organization, every company out there. And so that, as you can tell, that's what excites me. It is another transformation. It is another revolution. It's a great time to get started, to be at the beginning of this, because I have no idea what the jobs of the next 5 years are going to be, let alone in the next 10. And I know that when Leanne or Matthew or Yusuf left school, the jobs you're doing now didn't actually exist. Okay, so this is why it's such a really exciting industry to be in, and particularly experiential design technology. And at the moment we're using it for marketing, commercial, but we're working great in education as well, and it's literally going to transform the world. I think it's a terrific time to be starting a career.
Absolutely, Michael, and great insights. You're right. I mean, the experiences that we deliver, it's what's made all of your companies so successful, and I think, Matthew, going to you now, AWS is successful because of the amazing experience that you provide all of your customers and users. So, Matthew, what's your view of the future of AWS?
Well, I think it's and it's not necessarily just AWS; it's Amazon as a whole. There's a whole ethos at the core around that. If the product or service that you're creating is not making a material difference to the person that's going to consume that, it's giving them something in return for whatever money they might be paying to us for the use of our services, then it's not going to be sticky. It's not going to be it's not going to work. So that whole, how do we build something that's valuable, that actually provides benefit to our customers, into our solution design. It's a really radical way to look at doing business in a lot of ways, but it's driven. If you ever go and do some research in how Amazon works, it's driven a lot of the success that's been there is in making sure that we're delivering that back. But I think the technology industry, echoing some of the thoughts from some of the other technologists in the room, it's one of those careers that's almost infinitely variable, because it's a follower career, it's an enabler career. Because technology isn't a thing. It's not a business in itself. You can have it work in a technology company, but ultimately where technology fits in the value chain is it's around every single thing that we do. Technology can help to make us do it easier, faster, better. It can also help us help us do it worse, but it has the ability to help us do it better and faster. And so, a career in technology allows you to really get a varied experience across just about any industry there. I've spent time in hospitals helping with diagnostic imaging. I've spent time in astrophysics labs doing simulations of the universe. I've been on mine sites watching huge bauxite conveyor belts operating. And every industry in between I've actually had a chance to touch during my career. And the changes that are going on with technology are similar to, it always comes in waves, changes in technology. And this wave, which you could call a cloud wave, you could call whatever it is another one of those. And each of them have had something very similar. It's around about how do we actually remove or reduce the barrier between technology and the actual operations that the technology is supporting? How does it become more and more embedded so it's part of the operations of the business rather than separate, in some way separate? And this change doesn't make it perfect. It doesn't make it completely embedded, but it gets it more and more closer to the business. So it allows people that follow that as a career to really have, you can be in the same career but still have variation in your career, because I can work for this type of organisation this year. I can work for another type of organisation the other year, and get that change, get that change in my career, get that difference in experience and customer experience. So and the wave of decomposable architectures, the waves of data analysis and machine learning and robotics. It's a very exciting time to be in technology.
Thank you, Matthew, and thank you to all of you. What an exciting time to be in all of the industries that you're in. From Leanne, you talking about the sector transforming before your eyes. I mean, this is an industry that's been going on for over 100 years. To Yusuf, you talking about the power of data and the Industry 4.0. And Michael, you reminding us that yes, data and tech is all very important, but it's how we serve our customers, those experiences that we provide. And Matthew, you talking about technology enabling every part of society, which is just really exciting. So, and to be fair, all of you have mentioned that we actually don't have a full picture of what our future will look like, but what we're doing is enabling that future through the work that we do and the students that we're bringing to the front of your industries. So let's talk about the future for a moment. I think the pandemic and what we're going through now has seen trends that we were predicting to happen 5-10 years away coming at us far quicker than we would have ever imagined. The future is coming at us far quicker than we thought. So in that context, what are the career and employment opportunities that you see within your industry in the next few years? Matthew, why don't I stay with you?
Yeah, well, the current situation we all find ourselves in has not slowed down the IT sector one little bit. If anything, it's sped it up. It has changed some of the focus. So, dealing with universities, for example, in 2020, a lot of the innovation work that we were doing with universities essentially came to an abrupt halt as universities scrambled to go with the changing demographics. But that still meant we were still looking at, maybe it shifted a little bit into the cost-saving mode, but it shifted into, how do we do remote enablement? How do we use platforms like what we're talking on today to sort of extend the reach of the university outside the campus, and which you'd been doing for a while, RMIT Online and all of those sort of delivery mechanisms, but it really accelerated that part. How do you do this virtual collaboration, actually make it meaningful? And, people might argue whether it's better or worse, but it's definitely not horrendous. We're definitely able to cope. But I think technology is also one of those type of things where you're dealing with the computers, and you don't need to be next to the computer to deal with the computer. So it hasn't really put a dent in what we do. And this is, I'm not talking about AWS here, I'm talking about the entire technology sector. It hasn't really put a dent in what we can do. And if anything, it's really opened up a lot of companies that historically would have said, oh no, you need to be in Silicon Valley to be part of our company and be part of our startup. You need to be here. You need to be on site. And gone, well, actually, no, you don't. There's a few organizations in our industry that have gone, no, we're not going back to always in the office ever again. We're going to be mixed mode workforce forever. And that means, hey, if I'm in Australia, I can actually work for a company in the UK in technology, or I can work for a company in the US. So it's changed the demographics of the industry, and will continue to for some years, I believe. But it's really opened up the employability much, much wider than it was previously.
Thanks, Matthew. Michael, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it was interesting. I really caught on what Matthew said is, how do we make this, and I'm pointing at the screen here, how do we make this a better experience? It was interesting that before this period of time, the idea of having a high-level executive meeting through web was business faux pas. It was, and calling your mother like this was just not on, or let alone your friends. So the world has shifted. We're not going back. There's no business as usual, and this move to digital experience, the move to interacting. It's interesting. I don't know the answer to how to make this a better experience. Your audience are going to solve this for me. I do know that the role of creativity and design in coming to that problem, or solving that problem, is exploding. And when I say design, again, I'm going to come back to there's a view of design in business now being much more important. We call it design thinking, which is just to have an empathetic response, a customer-centric response, versus designing and creating stuff. And both of those are terrific. I love making good-looking stuff. And when you push that further, you get into art. And I'm not an artist, but you pull it back and you're a commercial designer, as we used to call them. And then you can move forward into design thinking and systems design. And it's very high end. But that's a continuum. And that goes from, if you want to just create good-looking stuff, perfect. But you can use those skills and build on those skills all the way up to C-level executive running your companies, because of that ability to have an empathetic awareness of your audience when you're designing for that audience. And that is exploding. Whether you're in the back end, I'll throw some names, companies that are here. Atlassian, it's a great Australian company, 30% growth, year on year in a pandemic. Financial companies are realizing this. Financial companies are desperate to change the experience that we have of them, and they're looking to redesign that. We ourselves, we're looking to double the size of our company in the next 2 years. That's incredible growth in this space. So certainly, we're hiring as fast as we can find the graduates, and we believe that the graduates that are at RMIT will work with us, both as interns and as graduates. So that the opportunity is enormous, but it's the opportunity of being able to combine a lot of different and disparate technologies and processes and bring them together and focus on that outcome. And that's what we're seeing coming out of RMIT, and that's why we're looking for that type of person, and the employment prospects are extremely high. It's a boom industry.
Thank you, Michael. It's such a valid point you make here that, creativity, people often think, when we work with Adobe particularly, they think, oh, that's about, as you said, art, visual design, etc. But that's not exactly the reality of this. You can apply creativity to all aspects of what we do. So whether it's business or STEM or technology, our vocational education. Adobe is involved in all aspects of what we do, simply because, as you put it, there's creative thinking, there's design thinking, creative problem solving, and of course the aspect of applying your creativity through visual design. So brilliant point. I think you're absolutely right. The future of work will involve us thinking in a different way creatively, and it's really, really important. Yusuf, what about yourself?
Right. As you mentioned previously, and also highlighted by Michael and Matthew, that we see a lot of new developments happening within the automation IT industry. Okay. And as we see this technology evolving globally, an increasing number of industrial processes are also becoming more and more automated, because people are trying to go not manual, but trying to automate their processes, right? And it is just transforming the way people work. For instance, right, on a smaller scale, we now have robotic vacuums in our houses, right? You push the button, it vacuums the place and comes back. On a larger scale, we have entire warehouses run by automation technology. Amazon, for example, is a prime example. Excuse the pun, by the way, they also have Amazon Prime as well. So, for instance, they have implemented a suite of robotic systems, enabling them to supercharge their order fulfillment process and make same-day delivery a widespread reality, which would not have been possible in the previous era, right? And with companies investing heavily in these new technologies, there's a tremendous scope and job opportunities available in the market for automation engineers. And automation being a multidisciplinary field, it demands knowledge from various engineering branches like electrical, electronics, mechatronics, telecommunication, instrumentation, mechanical, and so forth. So engineering students, professionals from these diverse backgrounds can certainly pursue a career in this automation industry. I would also like to mention this here. Recently, I was reading in an article that it's reported that there are around $40 billion worth of mining projects happening in Australia over the next 5 to 10 years, right? Now, if these projects are to realize, this could result in a significant rise in job opportunities in areas such as automation, as this new skill area is sought after for mining companies seeking to increase their productivity, income, and economic growth. Again, this is also backed up by another research study, which states that around 30 to 40% of current work activities in Australia could be automated by 2030. And remember, this will not happen on its own. Man-force will be required. People will be needed with relevant skill set. So I see a lot of opportunities happening in this industry.
Yes, so that's brilliant. People think about automation and think about robotics, and then they fear that this might take away the jobs that people have, and then people fear that world. I think you're completely right. There's no world without people designing these robots and the automation industry. So I think people will, and our students will have a wonderful career with technology and automation in making our lives better for it. To your point, my robot vacuum does a great job, better than my own kids. So you're absolutely right. Leanne, what about the automotive industry? Where do you think careers and employability will go in your sector?
Well, BMW Group is a German company. So our headquarters are in Munich, and this is where all areas of our business are represented in terms of production plants, R&D, design, engineering. We have BMW Museum and BMW Classics, which promote the company's history. And then we also have the BMW Welt, which promotes the future of the company. So this is where the biggest job opportunities are. However, with us being a global brand, we also have subsidiaries in 130 countries. So the opportunities in these subsidiaries are usually at a production plant level or at a national sales center. The national sales center, like we have here in Australia, are responsible for promoting the brand in terms of marketing, working together with our retail operations. So here in Australia, we work with 45 dealers across the country, and also in after sales. So in our National Sales Centre, the job opportunities for students are either in sales, marketing, public relations, after sales, or in our HR departments. However, we also have a captive finance component to our business called BMW Financial Services, and they provide financial solutions to anyone wanting to buy a BMW Group product. So for those students who are interested in finance, we have interns sitting in our financial services area. So we currently have in our subsidiary around 20 interns. This is a 1-year program, which can be extended to a 2nd year. And then the company usually endeavors to always try and secure that intern a permanent role once they have completed. And it's really rewarding because to see these interns working on, they fully integrated into our brands. They work on exciting projects, and then you see them secure their dream job after the 2-year program. It's really rewarding. So I'm currently looking for an intern, and because we have a close relationship with RMIT, of course, RMIT is the first port of call that I'll come to see whether you can help us secure a suitable candidate for my placement.
Great to hear, Leanne. And as you and I were talking, my own career, I started with the automotive sector. I was a vacation student, then became a corporate student, then a graduate at an automotive company here in Australia. And I think it is those experiences that lead you to do bigger, better things as you move on to your career. So to your point, when internships come up, students at RMIT love taking those on. So thank you for mentioning that. What an exciting view of the future and careers in your sectors. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I think it's also worth mentioning, we've seen a lot of people from our office being, securing positions in some of our other markets. For me, for example, I've worked in Dubai, I've worked in Singapore, and now I'm in the Melbourne office. So I've had a career opportunity with the company in 3 countries and on 3 continents. So you often see people move from our Australian office into other markets as well. So there's that opportunity as well.
That's fantastic. And to be fair to I think Matthew's point earlier, the world is a much smaller place now with online. You could start your career here and continue to work elsewhere, but also then physically move, as you've just mentioned. So great points. So let's move from a view of the future to what skills you're looking for. So this is the point that I think most of our students and future students would want to hear. What skill sets, qualifications, what are the things that future graduates need to have from your perspective? Why don't I start with you, Yusuf?
Sure. Great question. Especially keeping the audience in mind as to what they are thinking now, as to what the skill sets the employers are looking for, right? First of all, I would like to say that many graduates make the mistake of equating their skills to their academic qualifications, right? They say they got the degree now, they're all good. No. Not to say that employers don't value their academic achievements, but they're also interested to see what soft skills you bring to the table. For instance, interpersonal and communication skills are an asset to every organization, regardless of whichever industry you go. It is a known fact that skilled communicators work well with each other, listen to the instructions given to them, and know how to get their point across without being pushy, right? So these sort of soft skills that employers are looking for. Employers are also looking for graduates who have got good teamwork skills. Remember, no workplace is an island, right? We work together. So it's no surprise that employers want to hire graduates who can show that they can work well within a team environment. And a good team player can collaborate, influence, and compromise, right? So these are the skill sets, soft skill sets that employers are also looking along with your academic qualifications. And the important skill set employer are looking for is your ability to confront a problem, how you think through it, and then take decisive actions. Some employers, for instance, are also interested in your leadership skills, such as how you capitalize on your personal and team strengths to achieve organizational goals. Remember, there will be people with distinction and high distinction grades, but the differentiator could be your soft skills here. And this will come down to what relevance you bring to the table.
Thanks, Yusuf. Leanne, shall I come to you next? What's your view on?
I think for me, it's always about attitude. I think it's always important to see how the person is portraying themselves. Do they come across positive? Do they show initiative? Do they come across as ambitious? Are they interested to also understand the company interviewing them? So I always encourage people to ask questions and don't be shy to do so. You need to understand your role and what you will be responsible for. I think asking questions also shows that the person is truly interested. They care about the company they're going to work with, and they also have a curious mind. So I would say attitude, and encourage you to always ask questions. I think when I'm interviewing somebody, I also always look to see, do they have good communication skills? You know, you're in the business to promote a company and its product, so you need to be an effective and a confident communicator. And by this, I also mean not just verbally, but also written. So that's a prerequisite that I always look for when I'm interviewing a student.
Thanks, Leanne. What about you, Matthew?
As he gets off mute. So I think Yusuf summed it up really well right at the beginning, and then Leanne sort of expanded on that a little bit. It's really, it's about the diversity of skills. It's about the mix of skills. You need some career-specific skills, and they're usually pretty obvious. Usually there's a degree, there's a whole heap of IT degrees if you want to get into the IT industry. But if I sort of sum it up in a couple of ways, we typically look for people that have got good problem-solving skills. And so a lot of the testing we might go through with people that are coming through to be candidates, or early careers candidates, say for an internship or for a graduate position, we'll look at things that help display that you can think around a problem and think at it from different angles. One thing it's worth keeping in mind as you go through your career is that your cultural fit to an organisation is very important. Different organisations have different cultures. They've got different ways they go about how they conduct their business, and none of them are perfect. None of them are right, but they are different. And some of them will suit you better, suit your way of thinking, suit your way of acting more than others. So that's one thing to keep an eye out as they learn. I know from our organisation we have a very strong culture. If you want to know whether an organisation really enables its employees or not, look at whether or not it has a strong culture, because culture is your rule set within an organisation that lets you at the edge know, as an individual employee within the organisation, know what's expected of you if you're making a decision. So it's the thing that if an organisation has a strong culture, you know they probably have a highly enabled workforce. So look for that, and look for one that, and as you get further into your career, it's a bit harder to be too choosy early on in your career, but start looking for those signals from an organisation that make it a good fit for you, because those are some of those bonus questions, those things that will get you over the line in an interview. Very good, but problem solving and some diversity of experience is always very good in a candidate.
Thanks, Matthew. Let's round this out with you, Michael.
Yeah, look, of course, everything everyone has said, and I know the audience is probably thinking at a question like that, they may be taking notes because they've just spent 12 years having someone tell them something of which they've got to take notes to, and the answer is, like, what do? I want to be this, so what have I got to do to get to that? Look, you'll know that. Coming to RMIT, there's that structure that gets you to where this will be. But the best thing about it is at an organisation like RMIT, is that whilst you have all the things you need to do to get to this, and I will repeat that by the time you get to here in 3 to 5 years' time, that's probably not even going to be there anymore, okay, is that the answer to the question of what skill set and qualification am I looking for when someone fronts up across my desk is, if they're out of RMIT, I'm pretty sure they can do whatever the job requires of them to do. Okay, so they've got the skills to do it, but it's that ability. What I look for, and what everyone else is looking for, but me personally, is synthesis. If they've got a lot or a couple of other areas of interest. For example, if I may be personal for a moment, my son is currently an undergraduate, not at RMIT because I don't live in Melbourne, but he's doing business and theatre. So he goes from a hardcore financial modelling class to acting. because he's not quite sure which one he wants to go. And they're not disparate. You can bring the two things together in either in business or in theatre, perhaps more in the theatre than in the business. So this is what I'm looking for. A skill set and a qualification that I look for is, yes, you've come from RMIT, you've got this undergraduate degree in this discipline, you can do the job. But what else do you do? What is it about you? What's that other spark you bring? And I'd encourage you at RMIT to search out those things that are left field. I know there's a lot of them in there. There's everything from robotics to theatre to design to AR to VR, whatever undergraduate course you're doing, search those out and see if you can do some of those other courses that are 90 degrees to what you're currently enrolled in. And that's what I'm looking for, is if someone's sitting across my desk looking for a job. Yeah.
What wonderful advice. So absolutely, to your point, the technical skills are important, but all the soft skills like, teamwork, collaboration, problem solving, curiosity and passion, the sort of attitude you bring, the diversity of thinking, and to your point, Michael, just follow your passion and be open to what might come your way. So I think lovely advice, which I'm sure our participants will take on board. Now let's move on to the final question before we open up to the students and their questions, because there's a lot that have come through. So I want to leave some time for that. So I'm sure our participants are wondering about the relationship that your organisation has with RMIT. What's the affiliation and how do we work together? So in that context, I'm keen for you to sort of describe the affiliation, the sort of connection you have with RMIT. Yusuf, can I start with you, please?
Sure. At Beckhoff Automation, we strongly believe in the transformative power of connecting industry with the education sector, right? So we understand that industry's expectation of job ready graduates, and to address those expectations, we have got strong affiliation with the RMIT Institute to contribute towards the ecosystem of producing capable and confident graduates who do not just possess skills and qualifications, but are also equipped to lead industry of the future. So our passion is to basically to get students involved in the industry, and as such, we are working with RMIT on a number of meaningful collaboration ventures. I'll just name a few quickly. First of all, we have got industrial placement for RMIT students for 12 weeks, where they get to work with Beckhoff engineering team to learn about exciting automation concepts, automation projects, new industrial technologies, and most importantly, this practical industry experience enables them to develop skills that will enhance their prospects of gaining meaningful employment and building their career for the future. Secondly, we also have got state-of-the-art Beckhoff equipment installed in one of the automation engineering labs, which enhances students' learning experience, where students can get involved with real-life industrial projects by simulating and programming a pick-and-place robot controlled by a PLC, and then drive a conveyor belt system controlled by various other pneumatic and hydraulic systems. Thirdly, we are also part of the industry advisory committee, where we help academic teams create the course content based on the current industry trends, and to ensure that the programs that are delivered are real-world relevant, and it provides quality and valuable education to students so they can put their skills to immediate use in their chosen industry and pursue careers they love.
Thanks, Yusuf. And Michael, we do a lot with Adobe. I'm very excited about something that we're working on at the moment, the Creative Campus. So what's your connection with RMIT? I know there's a lot, but some highlights, mate.
Not just me spending a lot of time in Building 9 and the coffee shops on campus. Yes, it's a terrific organisation. We learn from RMIT. I know you may think, oh, what would Adobe learn from RMIT? But we learn how to be relevant. How to be relevant to you as an organisation, as an educational institution, and how to be relevant to your students. And so we have a really close relationship, as you say, from our RMIT is a very creative campus. So you have our tooling, which is great. That's for making content. But we also learn how that's applicable across your disciplines, across your faculties. And it's very much a symbiotic relationship. I get personally a lot out of talking to educators. Our executive staff, when they meet your executive staff, hear about what education requires. It's not a bank. It's not a financial institution. It's not it's a different type of institution. So we learn a lot from RMIT at the institutional level. At the student and faculty level, yeah, we engage closely, and it's a terrific learning process back and forward. I personally enjoy it. As I said, I'm on campus there quite often. Hope to get back there soon. But the relationship is very much back and forth, and that's the best thing that RMIT has. The work integrated learning program really does invite us in, and the benefit is that we also, of course, have you in our organisation as well. We have interns at the moment, both in our marketing and our technology and our development. And to sum up, I think what the relationship gives us is relevancy to you and relevancy to the rest of the world, and that's something I think is very precious to us as a company.
And Michael, one of the things I love every year is watching and looking at some of the awards that you sponsor, so our design awards that so many students take part in that Adobe sponsors. So many avenues. Thank you. Leanne, what about the relationship between BMW and RMIT?
I mentioned earlier that sustainability was becoming increasingly more important for the automotive industry. And I also mentioned that it's not just in the vehicles that are produced, but it's across the whole business ecosystem. For BMW Group, it begins with the supply chain. So what sort of companies we partner with, what are their sustainability business credentials? Then it goes on to how we produce our vehicles, how we service and dispose of those vehicles, and how our business impacts the local economy as well as the environment and society. So we know that the future of Melbourne in 2030 is confronted by several challenges, but none of them are more pressing than climate change. So we have a local education initiative with RMIT, whereby we ask students to answer a brief about what they think future mobility will look like in the year 2030. We ask the students to consider the BMW Group sustainability practices that we provide them with. And we also ask them to consider the 17 United Nations Sustainability Development Goals. So we currently have that competition going on. The entries close at the end of this month, and we have some exciting prizes for the students to win. But in addition to that, we also are looking to work with RMIT where we can help grads find internship programs within our organization. So I think that's a very exciting component for the students.
Thanks, Leanne. It's such a brilliant point. You know, embedding real world problems into the students' curriculum is something that we do very often, and I think it's a great example of the way we partner with you. And finally, Matthew, to you.
Yeah, so AWS has got both a supplier and a consumer relationship with RMIT. You know, we do supply services to RMIT to help them move some of their workloads to the cloud. But we also have a cloud innovation center, which is set up with RMIT, which is where we jointly between us and RMIT, we find industry or organizations out there in the industry that want to do some research on their business, and we bring those in and we do research projects in conjunction with RMIT. It's always been a good source of candidates for me for both my intern and my graduate program. I've got 2 graduates that have just recently started who are RMIT Masters of Data Science students, and I think I've got a couple more coming up in my next internship intake as well. Plus, I've got a lot of my staff in Melbourne, and they very much enjoy getting involved in guest lectures and mentorship programs with some of the RMIT students.
Thanks, Matthew. Now let's go to some of the audience questions, only because we haven't got much time left. So I might just go to individual sort of individual questions to each of you. Maybe, Leanne, I'll come to you with this one. There's a question around careers for women. So there seems to be more men than women is the question. I'm curious to get your view on this, probably specific to some of the technology roles or the sector in general. What's your view on employability for women in some of these careers?
Yeah, I think gender inclusivity is a strong focus for our HR department, and we endeavour to just find candidates who are suitable for the role rather than looking at gender. So in our PR, marketing and sales department, we actually have, I don't know the exact percentage, but there's a large number of women in those departments. Our HR department, which comprises of 15 people, there's 14 women and 1 male. So I think it just depends on which area in automotive you're talking about. I think we're still seeing predominantly males in the engineering and design areas in our headquarters. But in the subsidiaries, like in Australia, yeah, there's gender equality in all our business areas.
Thanks, Leanne. And then one very specific to Adobe, Michael. What are some of the lesser known Adobe resources? That's a very unusual one, quite specific.
Yeah, some of our lesser resources, we do a lot of AR and artificial intelligence and data. And RMIT, one of the things that, Jaminda, you asked for before, yeah, we at a tactical level, we sponsor and engage with RMIT at a level to at the course level and activity level. The Adobe resources are both marketing and sponsorship that we give to, that we work with. There's also other parts of our technology stack, our marketing stack, our artificial intelligence, our data collection stack, and so on. That RMIT is a customer of ours, both from the creative side and also the data and marketing side. And we're working with you how to figure out how to put those two together in a great way. So other resources we have are both internships. I'm working with one of your interns. She's terrific. And also post or information and research to our engineering backend and so on. So if that's the lesser known resources you're looking for, we engage in a lot of different areas, everything from, our tool set and how to use them, all the way through to data gathering and the best way to synthesize that for the good of the society. Yeah.
Brilliant, Michael. And maybe something a bit more topical given what's going on around us, Matthew. Are there any opportunities in biotechnology in your industry? And given Amazon's so pervasive across everything that we do, what's your view on biotech and maybe cloud computing, etc.?
Yeah, well, biotech is a big industry. Now, of course, we're not none of the industries that Amazon is in at the moment are really cross over the biotechnology space, but a lot of our customers they are. So biotechnology and a related discipline which which I'm personally seeing within my customer base. I look after mostly public sector customers, so healthcare is a big part of the organisations I deal with. Bioinformatics is one that's really in demand at the moment, and a lot of organisations are looking for that, particularly as some of the genetic analysis and some of the data analysis, some of the amount of data you get out of some of these systems that do scans of the human body or of any biological entity's body, just the sheer volume of data that comes out of that is really something quite extraordinary. So that area's got quite a lot of heat to it at the moment. But that entire industry is actually, I would say, is moderately strong in Australia. And if you'll bear with me, I wanted to also just address one of the other questions you had on gender mix in technology, because I think it's easy to look at, what the gender mix was 20 years ago, and when you're looking at people that are senior in the industry, you'll see what the gender mix was like 20 years ago. I've just put on 6 graduates and 5 of them are female. So the demographics, and I only one of them would come from an English background, so to say. So that's the complete demographic mix of technology has shifted significantly in the last 15 years and continues to.
Brilliant, Matthew. And RMIT has a real focus on women in STEM. And to be fair, I know we partner with all of you to drive that agenda, which is great to hear as well. Yusuf, let me come to you. This is quite an interesting one. I think Leanne touched on this, but specific to technology, how will technology and sustainability work together in the future?
It's a very interesting one. I would say they're already working in conjunction with each other, right? So we already have we already have seen subjects like sustainable technology, right? So they're already working in conjunction with each other in terms of they're mutually exclusive, right? I would say that without the sustainable effectiveness, the technology will not yield what it's doing right now. So I would say that it's already happening in the market that we see technology assisting sustainable factors into it. Yep.
Thanks, Yusuf. Now, we're going to squeeze one or two more questions. I know we're sort of running out of time. So what are the best courses to get into in context of your industry? So I'm going to go to each of you just to give me one, maybe two courses that you think would be of value to your industry. Let me start with you, Matthew.
Data and analytics, number 1,
Brilliant.
2, and 3.
Brilliant. Michael, what about yourself?
Well, I'm going to go with design thinking so that you can synthesize that data and make it relevant to someone who's not a data scientist. But yeah, so design thinking. There are lots of courses you have on design thinking and how that applies to business. So find out some of those.
Fabulous, Michael. Leanne, what about you?
This is quite a tough question to think about just one component, because I think it it depends on which department within our organization you have an interest in. Because I think, there's different prerequisites that are required for each of the departments. But I think one commonality, and I've touched on it many times, is sustainability. And as Matthew said, I think it was him that said, sustainability is part of everything that we're doing already, but it's just going to become even more so. So I think it's just having a strong understanding about climate protection, having that at the forefront of everything we're doing, being able to bring that value to the organization you're working on. And as I say, it just depends on which area you want to specialize in.
Brilliant.
But I encourage students to reach out, ask us questions. We're there to not just be here today, but, with us having a close relationship with RMIT, they can reach out to us anytime they want to ask us questions, anytime they want to come to our organization. I speak for BMW Group, come and shadow me for a day, shadow one of our colleagues to really get an understanding of what our roles involve every day and how all the different departments work together to drive our business forward.
Such a wonderful offer. Thanks. Yusuf, what about you? What are your thoughts about what courses should choose?
Sure. We've been talking about digitalization. We've been talking about digitally for transforming the future. So I would go with software engineering. Without software engineering, it's not possible.
Fabulous. And then one last question to finish us off. Again, giving advice to this audience. If there was one takeaway that you can sort of offer as a lesson learned from your career to these students who are listening in, what would that be? Yusuf, why don't I stay with you to begin with?
Sure. I would say believe in the power of failure. It is the best way to learn. Just remember to learn from your mistakes and not to repeat the same ones. Because again, this is the takeaway that I'm taking with my career. The failure is an element of success. If you fail, do quickly. And more importantly, learn quickly. I can't remember who said this exact statement, but the statement goes like, the greatest mistake you can make in life is to be continually fearing you will make one. So don't be fearful of making mistakes.
Thanks, Yusuf. Matthew, what about your thoughts?
Well, apart from just completely endorsing what Yusuf just said, I did, because that was absolutely magnificent. But always think about what you get value out of. Because there's a whole heap of different careers, and even within a particular job family, there's all different ways you can do it. Do you get value out of being at the front line, being the person that's actually delivering the value directly, or do you like being being behind the scenes and setting up the systems that help you to that help those things to be enabled and to actually operate? There's a lot of opportunity in today's world to be able to move and change over time. So think about what delivers you value, and don't be scared to make some potentially radical changes in your career as you go, to help you get closer and closer to that.
Fantastic. Michael, what about you?
Expanding on what Matthew said, you're entering into a period in your life for the next, say, 3 to 5 to 10 years, or that should be a lot longer, where you can literally do anything. And RMIT brings the most interesting people in the world into one physical place. And I know if you think, oh, this is what I'm going to do, I'm going to RMIT to study this. Don't. You'll get that. Branch out. There are some amazing, fascinating people at RMIT. Find them, ask them questions, engage with them, and that will make you have such a much more rewarding career than just doing what's required of you and chunking your way through the next 3 to 5 years. Yeah, there's so much interest and excitement at RMIT, and this is literally the probably the only period in your life where you'll be able to do whatever you want to do, whenever you want to do it. So that's what I would encourage you to do.
Wonderful advice. And Leanne, for the final word.
I think mine would be authentic. We've all been, uniquely created, and I think we need to base our decisions on what feels right for us. So play to your talent, your strengths, so that you flourish in the career that you choose.
Thank you, Leanne. I cannot thank our panelists enough. What a wonderful way to finish. I'm just, again, for all of our students and prospective students who are listening in, I would encourage you to take the advice that you've heard today, and I'm sure your careers will be as successful as our panelists. So again, thank you to our amazing panelists, Michael, Matthew, Leanne, and Yusuf. Your time is absolutely appreciated, and more importantly, our relationship with your wonderful organisations, as I've just said, is critical to our students' success. And for me, this is an interesting time that we're all in. It's a kind of challenging time. So to have a positive and exciting view of what the future holds is really important. So again, thank you for your time, and to our audience, hope you found that useful. Now remember, the recording is available to you in our Open Day site till the end of September. And if there's any questions, please do ask our team. And as the panelists mentioned, we can pass on some of the feedback from our panelists and other industry partners in the future as well. So once again, hope you find the session insightful and useful. And again, best of luck with your future career, whatever that might be.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.